Hi again. In part 1 I explained the origin of negative harmony and how it got into our world where kings and slayers of our time feast on the corpses of anyone that stands in their way. Pretty negative already. I also told you a bit about the essence of negative harmony, but above all I told you about a technique that lies at the very basis of negative harmony, namely melody inversions. So if you missed that, it's better to watch the part 1 of this tutorial first. So now it's time for the real negative harmony. In part 1 we have seen that the concept and the sprouted definition of negative harmony came from a book, A Theory of Harmony, written by Ernst Levy. In 2017 Jacob Collier took this theory by the hand and made it popular all over the world. Now the essence of negative harmony is that you take a progression with or without a melody and strictly reflect or mirror the notes of the chord of that progression around a specific axis. And the axis lies exactly between the tonic and the fifth degree, but we see that in detail later. Now, Levy stated that this way of reflecting chords around this specific axis creates an emotional and harmonic opposite of all chords. And the gravity towards the tonic will be preserved in the bass chord and in the negative reflection. Whole progressions can change from a happy version to a sad reflected mirror version, and even modes can be converted into a negative harmony version. So, negative harmony must be seen as a transformative theory to alter music in general in harmony and emotion. Now, Jacob Collier describes this negative harmony as another way to reach the tonic, or, as he says, the plagal way home. Now first let's take a look at the circle of fifths. Now on the right side we see all the keys with sharps, and on the left side we see all the keys with flats. Now in music, keys with flats tend to sound darker and keys with sharps sound brighter. Why this is the case you can learn in my video about brightness and darkness in scales, chords and modes. We put the tonic at the very top of the system, and as we travel towards the tonic, we can find our way in fifths on the right and bright side of the circle of fifths. For instance, with the progression like A7, D minor 7, G7 and C major 7. All the chords have a 5-1 relationship dominant to tonic. Or we can take the road to the tonic in fourths on the left and darker side of the circle of fifths, with a progression like E flat major 7, B flat 7, F major 7, C major 7 for instance. All these chords have a 4-1 relationship, and this is also called a plagal cadence, subdominant to tonic. Now something like this happens when we transform a progression following the negative harmony theory. So far so good. Now let's take the red pill and see how far this rabbit hole goes.
Stop that, it's silly.
In negative harmony, the axis of reflection in the C major scale lies between the tonic C and the fifth G. The reason why the axis is positioned right here we will see later on. If we refine the position of the axis, then we'll see that the axis lies exactly between the notes E flat and E, the minor and major third of the C major scale. There's a reason for this, which becomes clear in one of the next chapters. Now we can find the axis within the circle of fifths. We just have to turn the circle a little bit so that the axis becomes a straight line between the C and the G at the top and the D flat and the F sharp at the bottom. Now when we do so, we can now transform this into a conversion table. The notes of the C major scale and their transformations according to the axis of the negative harmony look like this. C becomes G, D becomes F, E becomes E flat, F becomes D, G becomes C, A becomes B flat, and B becomes A flat. The scale that is the result of this transformation is the C minor scale. C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat and C. So negative harmony converts a major scale into a minor scale. But negative harmony does much more than this, as we will see in this lesson. We can also visualize the reflection of notes in a chromatic circle starting on the tonic C with increments of a half step, hence the name chromatic. We will draw the mirror axis between the notes D sharp, which is enharmonic equal to E flat, and the note E. In this way we have also created a conversion system by drawing lines between the notes and their mirror image. We can do this also for other keys. For instance, if you want to create a negative harmony for the A major scale, then the axis of mirroring lies between the tonic A and the fifth E. Or we could say that the axis is positioned exactly between the minor third C and the major third C sharp, as we can see in this chromatic circle. Now again, this is a conversion system indicated by the guidelines between the notes and their mirror image. Now the A major scale has become an A minor scale. Negative harmony is much more about chords than it is about melody. So how are chords transformed from the positive to the negative side? For this we have to look at the conversion table of the C major scale that we have made in the previous chapter. The C major chord contains the notes C, the major third E and the perfect fifth G. Now when we mirror these notes around the negative harmony axis, then we'll see that the note C becomes the note G, the note E becomes the note E flat and the note G becomes the note C. These are all notes of the C minor chord, the root C, the minor third E flat and the perfect fifth G. So the C major chord becomes a C minor chord when it is subjected to negative harmony. Let's do another one. The D minor chord on the second degree, for instance, contains the notes D, F and A. Now D becomes F and F becomes D and A becomes B flat. So the negative opposite of the D minor chord is the B flat major chord, the tonic B flat, the major third D and the perfect fifth F. The G major chord on the fifth degree contains the notes G, B and D. Subjected to negative harmony, G becomes C, B becomes A flat and D becomes F. The result is an F minor chord, the tonic F, the minor third A flat and the fifth C. Now we can do this for all the other chords too, like this. E minor contains the notes E, G and B. These notes are transformed to the notes E flat, C and A flat, which are the notes of the A flat major chord. F major contains the notes F, A and C. Now these notes are transformed to D, B flat and G. This forms the G minor chord. The A minor chord contains the notes A, C and E and are transformed to the B flat, G and E flat, which are the notes of the E flat major chord. Now the B diminished chord on the 7th degree contains the notes B, D and F and are transformed to the notes A flat, F and D, which are the notes of the D diminished chord. It appears that all major chords become minor chords and the other way around in the negative reflection. The diminished chord stays a diminished chord. This is the template to quickly find how triads in the major scale are transformed with negative harmony. Now we can find the root notes of the reflected chords in the circle of fifths by using a different axis that is formed by the note C. A chord with a root G becomes a chord with a root F, and the other way around. A chord with a root D becomes a chord with the root B flat, and the other way around. And so on. The only oddball is the reflection of the root B that becomes a D flat in the circle of fifths. And in this case,
the system fails.
Now the position of the root of a chord in the scale has a relationship with the position of the root of a chord that is defined by negative harmony. Adding the two position numbers or degrees, we'll get the number 9, like this. The root of the first chord becomes the root of the 8th chord. C becomes C minor. So 1 plus 8 is 9. The root of the 2nd degree becomes the root of the 7th degree. D minor becomes B flat major. 2 plus 7 is 9. The root on the 3rd degree becomes the root on the 6th degree. E minor becomes A flat major. So 3 plus 6 is 9. The root on the 4th degree becomes the root of the 5th degree. F major becomes G minor. So 4 plus 5 is 9. 5 becomes 4, 6 becomes 3, 7 becomes 2. Man, I feel like Einstein or Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is the new Einstein, but different. Now in this example I used the theme of the Menuet in G major by Johan Sebastian Bach. The Menuet in G major and progression uses the tonic G major, the subdominant C major and the dominant D major. So the 1, the 4 and the 5. Now let's use the circle of fifths to make a conversion table of the G major key into negative harmony reflection. Now when we draw the axis between the tonic G and the dominant D, we can easily see the conversion of notes. The G becomes the D, the A becomes a C, the E becomes an F, and so on and so on. So the reflection of the G major scale is a G minor scale. The G major chord with the notes G, B and D becomes a G minor chord with the notes D, B flat and G. The C major chord with the notes C, E and G becomes a D minor chord with the notes A, F and D. The D major chord with the notes D, F and A becomes a C minor chord with the notes G, E flat and C. So if we transform the melody and progression of this Menuet in G, conform the negative harmony theory, then this is the result. The melody and the chords are mirrored around the axis that lies between the G and the D, to be exact, between the notes B flat and B, the minor and major third of the G major scale. Now this is how the original progression and melody sound compared to the negative harmony version. Now before we move on to the 7 chords, it's very important to know that the gravity of notes and chords towards the tonic isn't changed by subjecting a melody or a progression to negative harmony. The G major chord and the negative inversion F minor have the same gravity towards the tonic. In other words, G major and F minor resolve equally strong, but with a different emotion. Now let me show you. In a major scale we have 7 notes. Now some of these notes are release notes or resolve notes, and others are tension notes. Now the resolve notes or release notes belong to the tonic triad and evoke a feeling of home and peace. And the notes that do not belong to the tonic triad are so-called tension notes. Now these notes evoke a feeling of tension and want to resolve to one of the notes of the tonic triad. Now this is the key to how most of the music we hear works. In C major the release notes are the notes of the tonic, C, E and G. Now the tension notes in this scale are the notes D, F, A and B. D wants to resolve down to the tonic C and up to the major third E. F wants to resolve a half step down to the major third E. And A wants to resolve down to the fifth G. And B wants to resolve a half step up to the tonic C. So in this visualization it becomes clear that the G major chord built from the notes G, B and D wants to resolve to the C major chord. One note with a half step, B to C, and one note with a whole step, D to E. And this goes for the F major chord too, that is built from the notes F, A and C. Now this chord resolves also logically to the C major chord. Again, one note with a half step, F to E, and one note with a whole step, A to G. Now when we transform the scale with negative harmony, then we'll notice something remarkable, because all the release notes in the major scale are transformed into release notes of the minor scale, and all the tension notes are transformed to, again, tension notes. Now besides that, the movement of the resolving is similar too. So that is why the tension or gravity towards the tonic of chords is preserved when we transform a progression into negative harmony. And this is only the case when the axis is placed between the minor and major third. So that is one of the reasons we choose this specific axis for negative harmony. It's the only axis where tension or gravity is preserved. Now until now we have reflected only triads, but we can transform any chord with negative harmony, also 7 chords. So let's have a look at the 7 chords in the C major scale. As you can see, we have 4 types of 7 chords. The major 7 chord on the tonic and the 4th degree, the minor 7 chord on the 2nd, 3rd and 6th degree, the dominant 7 chord on the 5th degree, and the minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished chord on the 7th degree. Now maybe you will think that a major 7 chord becomes a minor 7 chord and the other way around when it is transformed with negative harmony. But it's not as simple as that. For instance, if we look at the chord on the tonic, we see a C major chord consisting of the notes C, E, G and B. Now according to the negative harmony conversion, the C becomes G, the E becomes E flat, the G becomes C and the B becomes an A flat. Now these notes spell out an A flat major 7 chord, but the negative root is C and not A flat. So it should be spelled and treated as a C minor flat 6 chord. So C major 7 is transformed to C minor flat 6. Let's do another important chord, the dominant 7 chord on the 5th degree. The G7 chord contains the notes G, B, D and F. The negative conversion of these notes look like this. G becomes C, B becomes A flat, D becomes F and F becomes D. Now the root G is transformed to the note F. Therefore, this chord should be spelled as an F minor 6 chord with the notes F, A flat, C and D. And this makes that the cadence to the tonic changes from a dominant 5-1 relation, G7, C major 7, to a plagal 4-1 relation, F minor 6 to C major 7. Now both progressions resolve equally strong to the tonic. Still, the G7 to C cadence is much blunter and more forceful than the more shy and timid F minor 6 to C major 7 cadence. Just listen to the difference. Sometimes the F minor 6 chord is treated as a D minor 7 flat 5 chord, G, F, A flat, C. Now this is also a beautiful option even if the root should have been an F. The D minor 7 chord on the second degree of the C major scale contains the notes D, F, A and C. In negative harmony these notes become F, D, B flat and G. The negative root of D is B flat, so this chord should be spelled as a B flat 6 chord. B flat, D, F and G. But if we take a closer look, then it can also be spelled as a G minor 7 chord. So a 2-5-1 in positive and negative harmony can sound like this. Let's transform the other 7 chords in the C major scale too. The notes of the E minor 7 chord, E, G, B, D, get transformed to E flat, C, A flat, F. The root of this chord should be an A flat, so it is spelled as an A flat 6 chord. The notes of the F major 7 chord on the 4th degree are F, A, C and E. Now these notes become D, B flat, G and E flat. The negative root is a G, so it should be spelled as a G minor flat 6 chord. The notes of the A minor 7 chord A, C, E and G are transformed to the notes B flat, G, E flat, C. The negative root is E flat, so the chord is spelled as A flat 6. The diminished chord on the 7th degree contains the notes B, G, F and A. If we transform these notes with negative harmony, then the resulting notes are A flat, F, D and B flat. The negative root on the 7th degree is ambiguous, but when we choose the note D as a root, then the chord becomes D minor flat 5 flat 6, which is a weird chord. Therefore we spell this chord as a B flat 7 chord, B flat, D, F and A flat. Now here you see the template of any major scale in negative harmony regarding the 7th chords. Now in the next example I took a melody that is inspired by a beautiful song called Whispering a Prayer written by Steve Vai. Now I harmonized it with 5 different 7 chords in the key of E major. Now the negative harmony axis lies between the tonic E and the 5th note B. To be exact, it lies between the G and the G sharp, the minor and major 3rd. Now using the circle of fifths or the chromatic circle, we can determine the conversion like you see here. Now we already have seen how to subject the 7 chords of a major scale to negative harmony, resulting in this template. If we apply this to the E major scale, then we see this. The progression I used for the example I'm going to show you looks like this. So let's listen to the progression and melody. To make a negative harmony of the original positive harmony, we can start with converting the melody, because that is the most straightforward thing to do. We just transform all the notes with the circle of fifths and the appropriate mirror axis. Now for the harmony, we should first harmonize the E major scale with the 7 chords and write down the negative harmony. On this template we can see that the tonic E major 7 becomes an E minor flat 6 chord, and the C sharp minor 7 chord becomes a G6 chord. And the G sharp minor 7 chord becomes a C6 chord. The subdominant A minor 7 becomes a B minor flat 6 chord, and the dominant B7 becomes an A minor 6 chord. So the progression subjected to negative harmony sounds like this. And you can really hear the difference if I play both progressions with the melody after each other. So here are both worlds, bright and dark. Now, with the ability of mirroring melodies that you could have learned in part 1 and with the knowledge that you have gained in this part 2 about negative harmony, you have a solid understanding of this notorious technique. Notorious indeed, but unnecessary, covered in shrouds of mystery. Now, once you understand how it works and how to use it, you can come up with very interesting musical ideas and make variations on progressions, cadences and whole songs. Now, we didn't touch an important aspect of negative harmony, and that is modal negative harmony, because that exists too. Very interesting things happen there. But I leave that subject for part 3 of this negative harmony tutorial. Now, I hope this was crystal clear and that from now on negative harmony is just a thing that you use like any other theoretical concept to help you with writing music. I hope to see you next time, and for now, bye.